I still remember the night Mia and I made the promise. We were sitting on her bedroom floor, surrounded by empty chip bags and the faint glow of fairy lights. It was the summer before freshman year, and we were convinced we had life all figured out. Mia was the one who said it first, her voice steady and sure, like she was announcing some grand life plan.
We're not gonna be like everyone else. We're gonna stay celibate through high school, no distractions, no drama, just us, focusing on ourselves.
I remember nodding, my heart pounding like we were making some sacred pact. Yeah, no sex. Not in high school. We're better than that. At the time, it felt so simple. Like all we had to do was say it and it would happen. But high school? High school doesn't care about promises. Fast forward to junior year, and things were complicated. Mia had been dating Jason since sophomore year, and I could tell she was head over heels for him. Jason was the kind of guy who made you believe in love at first sight. Mia had always dreamed of a guy like him asking her out, and when it finally happened, she was over the moon. But I could see the cracks in our promise starting to form. Mia spent less time with me and more time with Jason. She'd cancel our plans last minute, and when we did hang out, all she could talk about was him. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to be that friend, the jealous one, the one who couldn't be happy for her best friend. But deep down, I was scared. Scared that our promise was slipping away and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The first time Mia canceled our plans for Jason, I didn't say anything. She called me an hour before we were supposed to meet up, her voice bubbling with excitement.
Olivia, I'm so sorry, but Jason just asked me to go to this party tonight and I really want to go. You understand, right?
Yeah, of course. Have fun. But as I hung up, I couldn't shake this sinking feeling in my chest. It was like watching a crack form in a glass, knowing it was only a matter of time before it shattered. The party was where everything started to unravel. It was one of those typical high school parties, loud music, red cups, and the smell of cheap beer hanging in the air. Mia was glued to Jason's side, laughing at everything he said. That's when I met Ethan. He was one of Jason's friends, with this messy blonde hair and a smirk that made my stomach flip. For a moment, I forgot about the promise, forgot about everything. But then I caught Mia's eye across the room, and the guilt hit me like a punch to the gut. I immediately walked away. Mia told me about her and Jason a week later.
Olivia, I need to tell you something. Jason and we did it.
I froze. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, to remind her of the promise we'd made, but the other part of me just felt sad. Sad because I could see the guilt in her eyes, and sad because I knew things would never be the same between us.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break our promise. I love him, Olivia, and I didn't want to lose him.
It's okay. I get it. But inside, I was torn. If Mia couldn't keep the promise, what did that mean for me? Was I just being naive, holding on to something that didn't even matter anymore? After Mia's confession, things between us changed. She spent more time with Jason, and I felt like I was losing my best friend. We still hung out, but it wasn't the same. There was this unspoken tension, like we were both avoiding the elephant in the room. One day during lunch, Mia finally brought it up.
Do you hate me?
Of course not. Why would you think that?
Because I broke our promise, and I feel like you're judging me.
Mia, I could never hate you. I miss you. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't fully believe me, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I believed myself. Things got even more complicated when a new girl, Leah, transferred to our school. She was beautiful, confident, and immediately caught Jason's attention. I could see the way he looked at her, and it made my stomach churn. Mia noticed too.
Do you think Jason likes her?
I didn't know what to say. The truth was, I did think Jason liked her, but I couldn't tell Mia that. I'm sure it's nothing. But deep down, I knew something was about to blow up. It happened after school one day. Mia came to my locker.
Jason broke up with me. He said he needs space.
I pulled her into a hug, my heart breaking for her. I'm so sorry, Mia. She cried for what felt like hours, and there was nothing I could do, but as much as I hated seeing her like this, a small part of me couldn't help but feel relieved. Maybe now things could go back to the way they were. Mia didn't stay single for long. A week after the breakup, she started dating Chris, a guy from our math class. He was nice enough, but I could tell she was just using him to get over Jason. Do you really like him?
He's nice, and he makes me forget about Jason.
I wanted to tell her that she was just setting herself up for more heartbreak, but I didn't. Instead, I just nodded. As long as you're happy. Ethan was still texting me, and the temptation was getting harder to resist. One night, he asked me to come over to his house. I told myself I was just going to hang out, but deep down I knew better. When I got there, he was waiting for me.
I've been thinking about you.
I felt my resolve crumbling, the promise feeling farther away than ever. But then I thought about Mia, about everything we'd been through, and I took a step back. I can't. I made a promise. But as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing something I wasn't sure I could get back. Things came to a head one night at a party. Mia was drunk, and she started yelling at Jason, accusing him of cheating on her with Leah. Jason denied it, but Mia wasn't having it. Her voice echoed through the room. I tried to calm her down.
You don't understand, Olivia. You've never been in love.
Her words stung, but I didn't say anything. Instead, I just stood there, watching as my best friend fell apart. After the fight, Mia and I didn't talk for a week. It was the longest we'd ever gone without speaking, and it felt like a piece of me was missing. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to her house. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel like I didn't understand.
I'm sorry too. I didn't mean to push you away.
Mia looked at me for a long moment, then pulled me into a hug. We stayed like that for a long time, holding on to each other like we were afraid to let go. By the time graduation rolled around, things had settled down. Mia and Jason were on speaking terms, and she and Chris had broken up. Ethan had stopped texting me, and I was starting to feel like maybe I could keep my promise after all. As we stood on the stage, accepting our diplomas, I looked over at Mia and smiled. We'd been through so much together, and I knew that no matter what happened, we'd always have each other. College was supposed to be a fresh start, but it didn't take long for old habits to creep back in. My roommate, Jess, was the polar opposite of me. Wild, carefree, and always dragging me to parties. At first, I resisted, clinging to the promise I'd made in high school, but the more I said no, the more I felt like an outsider. One night, Jess cornered me in our dorm.
Olivia, you're in college now. You can't keep living like you're still in high school. You're missing out on life.
Her words stung, but they also made me think. Was I holding on to the promise out of fear? Or was it still something I truly believed in? Then there was Alex. He was in my psychology class, smart, funny, and ridiculously good-looking. We started studying together, and before I knew it, we were spending almost every day together. He was different from Ethan. He didn't push me or make me feel guilty for saying no, but that almost made it harder. One night, after a study session, Alex walked me back to my dorm. The air between us was charged, and I could feel the tension building. He leaned in, his eyes searching mine.
Olivia, I really like you.
My heart raced, and for a moment, I forgot about the promise. But then I thought about Mia, about everything we'd been through. I can't. I made a promise.
I get it. But just know, I'm here when you're ready.
I felt a mix of relief and regret. Was I making the right choice? Or was I just holding myself back? The pressure finally got to me during spring break. Jess convinced me to go on a trip with her and a group of friends. It was supposed to be fun, but it turned into a nightmare. Everyone was drinking, hooking up, and living like there was no tomorrow. I felt like the odd one out, and for the first time, I started to question everything. One night, after too many drinks, I found myself alone with a guy named Ryan. He was charming, and for a moment, I let myself get lost in the moment. But when he leaned in to kiss me, I panicked. I can't. I made a promise.
A promise? To who? Yourself? Come on, Olivia, live a little.
When I got back to campus, I called Mia. I needed to hear her voice to remind myself why I'd made the promise in the first place.
Olivia, are you okay?
I broke down, telling her everything about Jess, about Alex, about Ryan, about how I felt like I was losing myself. Mia listened quietly, then said,
Olivia, the promise wasn't about saying no to everything. It was about staying true to yourself. If you're holding onto it out of fear, then it's not serving you anymore.
Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Was I holding on to the promise because I believed in it? Or because I was afraid of what would happen if I let it go? I spent the next few weeks soul-searching. I talked to Alex, who was surprisingly understanding.
I like you, Olivia, but I want you to be sure. Don't do anything because you feel pressured. Do it because it's what you want.
His words stayed with me as I thought about what I really wanted. The promise had been a part of me for so long, but was it still who I was? Graduation day was supposed to feel like a victory, but as I stood in my cap and gown, I couldn't shake the weight of everything I'd been carrying. The promise, the guilt, the fear, it all felt like a shadow I couldn't outrun. Mia was in the crowd, smiling at me, but even her presence couldn't quiet the storm inside me. After the ceremony, Alex found me. He looked handsome in his suit, holding a small bouquet of flowers.
Congratulations, Olivia. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks, Alex. I forced a smile, but my heart wasn't in it. He must have sensed something was off.
Hey, are you okay?
I don't know. I thought today would feel different, like I'd finally figured everything out, but I just feel lost.
You've been carrying that promise for a long time. Maybe it's time to let it go.
His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Let it go? The promise had been my anchor, my compass for so long. Who would I be without it? Later that night, I sat on the steps of my dorm, staring up at the stars. Mia had gone back to her hotel, and Alex had left to meet up with friends. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was alone with my thoughts. I thought about the promise, the night Mia and I made it, the way it had shaped me, the way it had held me back. I thought about all the times I'd said no, not because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to. And I thought about the person I wanted to be. Not the girl who lived by a rule she'd made when she was 14, but the woman who made choices because they felt right, not because they felt safe. I realized the truth. The promise wasn't about sex, it was about control. It was about holding on to something, anything, in a world that felt so out of control. But I wasn't that scared 14-year-old girl anymore. I was stronger, braver, and more sure of myself than I'd ever been. I took a deep breath. It was time to let go. The next morning, I met Mia for breakfast. She took one look at me and knew something was different.
What's going on?
I'm letting go of the promise.
What? Why?
Because it's not serving me anymore. It was important to me for a long time, but I'm not the same person I was when we made it. And that's okay. Mia stared at me for a long moment, then smiled.
I'm proud of you, Olivia.
Her words meant more to me than she could ever know. For the first time in a long time, I felt free.
Did you enjoy the video? If you enjoy the story, hit subscribe and turn the notification bell so you will never miss a new video.